Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is John Viglotti, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our Small Cap Growth Conference. We'll start today with a live presentation from Redsense Medical. Please note you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides, and you can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Pontus Nobrius. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Redsense Medical, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol RDSNF and on the Spotlight Market under the symbol REDS. Welcome, Pontus.
Thank you so much for the nice introduction, and good morning to everybody, and welcome. And I'm very pleased to kick off this virtual investor conference. For the next 30 minutes, I will be talking about improving safety and saving lives of hemodialysis patients. But before going into that, just a little bit about myself and my background. I joined Redsense Medical as CEO in August last year. Before that, I've spent most of my career in sales, business development, and leadership positions in international settings, and actually have been working almost 10 years abroad, 2 times in the US and also in South Africa. And over the years, I've been working with a wide range of companies with products within the lab tech, diagnostic, medical devices, and pharmaceutical in international settings. And most of the companies I've been working with has been small and mid-sized company, and I'm really passionate about business development and international growth, especially when you have products that can make a difference for the patient. So the question is, why was I interested in Redsense? Well, first of all, it's a company with a product that actually saves lives. That's very important for me. But also a company that has a product that is regulatory approved, clinical proven, and commercially viable in the largest medtech market in the world, the US. And a company with nice growth plans and in a scale-up phase as well. I will actually start with a story from real life. It's about an elderly man doing dialysis in a clinic. He is lying in his bed. He is relaxing, reading the newspaper because a dialysis session takes a couple of hours. The nurse checks in, everything looks fine. However, what's happened then is that there is a leakage, blood leakage. A venous needle is dislodged, coming out of the position. And blood is absorbed into the patient's clothes, into the bed. And when the nurse comes back next time, she sees a lot of blood on the floor. And there is a huge bleed out from the patient. Unfortunately, this man's life could not be saved. And this is unfortunately a case that happens too often. So venous needle dislodgement, or as we call it, VND, is a serious issue. And that is what I'm gonna address in the next minutes. In fact, 21% dies every week because of venous needle dislodgement. What is dialysis? Well, when a person's kidney stops working, you need to have a therapy, and the most common way of doing a treatment is dialysis. It means that you have an artificial kidney, which is the hemodialysis machine. You take blood out from the patient with a needle and a tube into the machine, and then in the machine the blood is cleaned, and then it's moved back with another tube and needle into the patient. And that goes on for many hours, that cleaning process. It's a quite common procedure. However, there is still a risk associated with this, and that is the venous needle dislodgement. You have to remember, when you make a dialysis, the patient that you treat has about 5 liters of blood, and you circulate around 0.5 liters per minute. So it's a quite high flow rate that goes through the machine. And if there is a leakage or a venous needle dislodgement, you can quickly bleed out. It only takes 3 to 5 minutes. So it may not result in a death, but it can result in serious complications, meaning that the patient has to go to the acute care and be treated. And it also involves large cost for the healthcare providers and payers. And you may ask yourself, when you have those modern machines, wouldn't they be able to take care of venous leg dislodgement? Well, the problem is that the built-in pressure sensors in those machines are not able to do that in most cases. In 71% of the cases, they can't even theoretically take care of that pressure difference. And that's how Redsense comes into the picture. Redsense Medical is a Swedish medtech company. It's all started in a southwestern town of Sweden called Halmstad in 2000. They had experienced quite a lot of VNDs, and the hospital engineer thought there must be a way to solve this, and he got in contact with some people in Halmstad, and the project was started. And that project ended up in a prototype of a Redsense alarm system, and the company was founded in 2006. So how do we do it? Well, we have an alarm unit, and we use fiber optic with this non-invasive method to detect blood leakage. From the alarm unit, which is placed close to the patient and the machine, we connect a fiber optic cable. In the end of this cable, we have a non-invasive sensor patch, as you can see in the middle of this picture. That goes on top of the venous needle. And should there be any blood leakage, it will be absorbed into the foam in this sensor patch, and quickly we will get an alarm through the fiber optic that will measure this, and we will have a loud noise coming out of the alarm unit, and it start flashing to get the attention of the nurse and the caregiver. So if we look a little bit closer at the system, as I mentioned, we have the alarm unit itself. That is a very easy to use device. It's just one button. We want to make it easy for the nurse and the patient. We connect it with a fiber optic extension cable. And this, of course, the alarm unit you can use all over time. It's a multiple use device. But then we have the sensor patches that I spoke about. We have one version for venous sensor, which is the most common. And we also have a larger sensor patch for a catheter. Sometimes you use a catheter when you do the dialysis. And these are disposable. So you use one of those for each treatment. That is important. I should also mention that the Redsense alarm unit is the only FDA-cleared product for blood loss detection in the US, and it's of course also CE marked. Of course, we view this as very important. There's always a risk for VND at any time you do hemodialysis, and we would like to see it as a standard of care. However, we also realize that some patients are more at risk than others, and there are studies that has been done in the clinic, which is, by the way, the most common way to do the treatment today. You go to the clinic 3 times a week, spend 4 or 5 hours to do this cleaning process of the blood. And in the clinic, some patients are more at risk. The patients that are covering the arm, maybe you're freezing when you do dialysis, elderly and confused people. Also, if you're in the corner in the clinic, and the reason for that is basically that you don't have that much traffic of nurses in that part of the clinic, and not so many other patients that can observe. And of course, if you do it in your own room or during the night, it's also a risk situation. The other way of doing hemodialysis is to do it at home. That is becoming more and more popular, and I will talk more about that a little bit later. Of course, you can do that yourself, you can do it with a partner or during the night. But in those circumstances, you're more or less at 100% risk because you don't have any healthcare infrastructure close by. So how common is this problem? Well, if you look at the big picture, we are talking about 8 100 million people having a chronic kidney disease globally. And of course, for many of those people, they go into the end stage of disease where the kidneys stop working. And basically, you just have two alternatives at that point, either being on lifelong dialysis or a kidney transplantation. And dialysis is by far most the common therapy, and close to 4 million people are actually on dialysis worldwide. And hemodialysis is the most common modality. This can be broken down in number of treatments, and we're talking about more than 500 million treatments per year. This is, of course, also a challenge from the cost perspective, and I'm going to move to my next slide talking about the US. In the US, there are 37 million people that have a chronic kidney disease. And for around 800,000 of those, they have reached the end stage renal disease where the kidneys have stopped working. And the fact is that Medicare, they spend 6% of the annual budget on those 1% of the population having end-stage renal diseases in the US. So that is, of course, a challenge. The reason I'm talking about the US is that we as a company have the majority of our market in the US. In fact, in 2022, we had 99% of the revenue coming from the US. So it's a very important market for us. So those 800 patients, how are they treated? Well, as you can see on this slide, the majority are going to the clinic. Around 500,000 patients do that 3 times a week. However, what is growing fastest is home hemodialysis. That grows 3 times faster than the in-center hemodialysis. All in all, about 75 million hemodialysis treatments in the US per year. Coming back to home dialysis, this is gaining more and more popularity, and there are several reasons for that. One reason is a political initiative from 2019, actually an executive order from the president at that time, stating that we aim to have 80% of new American ESRD patients in 2025 receiving dialysis in the home or receiving a transplantation. That's quite a strong message and bold message that this is important. I mean, it's important from the cost perspective, as I mentioned before, because dialysis costs the payers a lot. But it's also very important for the clinical outcome for the patient. It is proven that you get much better outcome from the clinical point of view by doing it at home. As an example, you can do more treatment, shorter times, which is better for your body. You get increased survival. But more than that, from the patient point of view, you can get flexibility in your life. You can decide when you do the treatment. You may not have to go to a clinic that may be far away and spend a lot of money on that. So you will also be saving money as a patient. All in all, it gives you better quality of life. But also from the dialysis provider's point of view, it's important to increase the number of home treatment. And of course, this goes like any healthcare that you want to move the treatment to make it more convenient for the patient. It's also cost savings for the providers by doing so, especially given the situation where you have a lack of skilled nurses right now. One of the largest players in the US, Fresenius Medical, has stated that they have the goal of having 25% of the patient in 2025 doing home treatment. This is quite a busy slide, as you can see, but I will give you some guidance and talk about the most important thing here. And I want to highlight the market structure in the US. And in the US, most of the dialysis is provided actually by for-profit organization companies. It's dominated by two players, Fresenius Medical Care and Davida. They have 80% of the market, and they have totally over 5,300 clinics around the US out of the 7,700 totally. And they treat more than 400,000 patients yearly. Of course, there are other important players in the US that account for the other 20%. And in addition to that, there are some prominent hospitals, name that you probably recognize, that are into dialysis. And what's important here is that those providers use Redsense, are very familiar with our product. And I would also like to say that if you look at the market structure where we are today, we are mostly in the home hemodialysis setting, which consists roughly about 12,000 patients at the moment. And to assist us to doing business in the US, we work with two reputable distributors, names that you probably recognize, Cardinal Health and Henry Schein. So the way it works is that they place orders with us. We send the products from Sweden to the warehouses of Cardinal Health and Henry Schein. The providers order directly from those distributors. But for us, it's also very important to be close to the providers. We have a sales and support team in the US who is actively interacting with those providers. And here I must point out some important stakeholders, the nurses, nephrology nurses, where we interact a lot, also the dialysis technicians, and of course the doctors. In order to do home dialysis, and in order actually to grow that segment, it's important that the patient feel peace of mind and feel that they can do this in a safely way. And I believe it's very important that you actually use products that have been FDA cleared to minimize adverse events and any injuries. So we're very pleased that the Congress is also addressing the issue with venous needle dislodgement. And in May, a bill was introduced into the House of Representatives, the Home Dialysis Risk Prevention Act, that is supporting the use of an alarm unit to minimize the effect of venous needle dislodgement. And what this bill also will mean is that it will provide for Medicare coverage of an alarm unit, which is not the case today. Today, it's not included in the bundle that the providers get for providing dialysis either in the clinic or at home. So this is a very important initiative which we appreciate a lot, which can mean a lot for the patient in the US, as well as, of course, for the providers. It's important for us also to create awareness in this area. And already in 2022, we arranged a briefing in the Congress. That was a virtual briefing at that time. A few weeks ago, we had a physical briefing in the House of Representatives where we wanted to highlight the importance of be aware of venous needle dislodgement and how you can prevent any complications from that. In that event, we also had speakers from the American Association of Kidney Patients, which are actively also promoting patient safety for home hemodialysis patients, as well as ECRI, which is Emergency Care Research Institute, an independent organization in the US. And we also had our US clinical director speaking at this event, Jane Hurst. I mentioned ECRI, and ECRI has also looked into venous needle dislodgement, and they all public a list of top technology hazards within healthcare, and for 2023, venous needle dislodgement was high on that list. So that is also a strong signal that this is something important that you need to take action upon. There are other organizations I mentioned before, the American Association of Kidney Patients. We participated in the National Patient Meeting, where we had an opportunity to also highlight the importance of patient safety and venous needle dislodgement. That happened in September this year. Earlier this summer, there was a policy summit, and in that summit, there was a participation from the Congress office of Adrian Smith, which is the congressman behind this bill. Other way where we have been highlighted, not we, but maybe the venous needle dislodgement problem was by KFF News, and that was an article this summer that also came to CBS News. So there is a lot of motion going on and awareness regarding venous needle dislodgement. We'd be very pleased to hear about. I mentioned before the issue that the hemodialysis machine really can't take care of the problem when you have a venous needle dislodgement. It's not sensitive enough in most cases to stop the machine. But we have taken care of this challenge with a new product called the clamp. The clamp is an accessory to our Redsense alarm unit, and basically you put that on the blood tube, the venous side tube, as you can see to the picture to the right. This has a wireless communication with the Redsense alarm unit. In case there should be an alarm, there is a signal coming to the clamp, and there is a pitch that will press the tube so hard that the flow will actually stop. And when that stops, that is enough to actually stop the machine. So the nice thing about this accessory is that it's machine independent. This will be launched in 2024. We are finalizing the CE marking for this accessory, and as soon as that is done, it will go into the market. Our main focus initially will be Canada, which is actually a country with a lot of home hemodialysis. Some selected countries in Europe, I should mention UK and Germany, and also in Australia, we're seeing quite a lot of interest because they do have a lot of home hemodialysis, and they also have a lot of distances. So that is important. And when it comes to the US market, we had a meeting with the FDA, a pre-submission 510K meeting in April. So we also work on the regulatory submission for that, and our plan is to make a submission in next year. In order to make this possible, we need to have a good team in place, and I have some excellent colleagues here in Sweden taking care of everything from supply chain, sourcing, product management, R&D, and our financial procedures. In the US, we have a subsidiary, and they are running sales, business development, and marketing in the US, as well as important support to our customers. And then we have the backing of an excellent board headed up by Patrick Beamer. He is the chairman of the board and also the founder of the company and the previous CEO. And he has 4 excellent and competent women in his team. They have a lot of experience, everything from sales, marketing, business development, building company, national growth, and the scientific part. So if we look at the Redsense investment case, first of all, I would say that there is a strong underlying market. As I mentioned, a lot of people unfortunately do have chronic kidney diseases that is growing. So that is important to have in mind. And we also have an unmet need when it comes to the safety, the venous needle dislodgement. And with our product, we can save life and we can save costs for healthcare system and the payers. We are already present in the US, probably the largest market for medtech in the world. We have a good connection with the US dialysis providers that use our product. We can have an increased market access by the bill that I spoke about earlier when that goes into reimbursement. And long term, of course, we have those 500,000 patients in the clinic, which if you look at the risk part is 100,000 that can come into play. I believe that then we need actually to have some sort of reimbursement, but that is a good opportunity. And finally, we expand with a new product. Yes, spoke about the clamp. So with that said, I thank you very much for your attention, and I actually invite you to invest in Redsense and at the same time saving lives. My contact information is on this slide. You're very welcome to contact me at pontus.nobreus@redsensemedical.com, and I will try to answer any additional question that way. But now it's time for some questions that has been coming up. Okay, yeah. So there are some questions here. I will start with the first one. For home dialysis, is the treatment self-administered? Well, the way it works is that you go to your nephrology doctor and you have a discussion with the doctor. And of course, the doctor will, based on your conversation and looking at your disease situation and the opportunity for you to go home, and there is a decision made. Okay, you can go home and do a home treatment. And then you go through a very good training program with any of the providers that actually offers home dialysis. And once you're through that, you go home and you do all the treatment at home. Okay, let me see. Okay, there is a question here. It's about revenue guidance. The question is, are you providing any revenue guidance for 2024 and beyond? The answer to that question is that we typically don't provide any public guidance. What you can do, you can actually look at our report so far. We have had a fantastic first half year with very strong revenue. We had, if you also look at the press releases, we had a very nice order in August from one of the distributors in the US. And if you add those numbers together, it looks very promising for this year. It will be our best year ever when it comes to revenue. But again, we haven't actually provided any guidance for 2024. What I can say that we have so many growth opportunity. We have opportunities within the home hemodialysis segment in the US. We have opportunities with our new product clamp. We have the legislation in the US. So there are many indicators that are giving us a very positive sense for 2024. Okay, there was another question here about any need for raised capital. That is, of course, something that we discuss with the board carefully, and we monitor our situation in the fall, and based on that, we will make decisions. Obviously, we're not making money at this time, but given our strong order uptake and initiatives, we will look at that as well going forward. I think my time is actually out at this moment, so I would encourage you to get in contact with me. You can book meetings with me, or you can connect with me directly on my email address. So with that, thank you very much for listening today, and I wish you a good rest of the day. Thank you very much.